Hello again, everyone. And this topic of conversation does obviously come with its own trigger warnings. If people are affected, there are resources below that people can access. It's how we use media and how media can either be used as a tool for healthy behaviors or as an inhibitor, as an inhibitor for one's mental health. So, with that being said, it's kind of going on to why I suggest that. So, things that I've observed, certain consumption of media can also be brought out with repressive behaviors. And when I say repressive, or is it regressive? It's regressive. Regressive behaviors, such as watching things you used to watch when you were a child. So, certain films, TV series, anything like that you would use when you were a child, or playing certain games, or listening to certain music. You're putting your mind back to a time where it was, I want to say healthier, it was more tolerable in some cases. Again, subjectivity is in play here. So not everything that I say is factual, and I don't want anyone to take anything that I say as factual, more as my opinion or my perception of what I've observed. So, for example, and this is something that I want to look at in my own studies, is how people consume media to benefit their own mental health, even if it's temporary. So, say for example, um, you've had a pretty long, distressing day, and you will watch a Disney film from when you were a child, specifically. Let's say, so for me, if I was to go back that far, it'd be like Lion King, Toy Story, Cars, Finding Nemo, something that, or Winnie the Pooh's Grand Adventure. Sorry to cut myself off with that there. Something that's going to put my mind back into the times where I was a child, where it was simpler to just be a child. And how almost utilizing that and helps. I wouldn't say it heals your inner child, I would say it appeases it. Because you have to do things to appease your child. There's so much advocacy on being an adult, right? You know, being mature, being a provider, being all this, that, and the other. There's so much pressure on being an adult. You mature with age mentally, but emotionally, it's a different ball game. Yeah, you can mature emotionally, but you don't flip a switch. You don't wake up morning and be like, "Oh, I'm an adult now." You know, I'm 26, and if someone, I still get satisfaction for going out and buying Lego and Pokemon cards because that's appeasing my inner child. It may not be a necessity. It may not be, did I really need to spend something on something so childish? Is some of the comments that I would be told. No, but I did it anyway because at the end of the day, it brought me a sense of dopamine that you could only get if you're looking after your inner child, if you're spoiling your inner child. Buying a new game, going to the game shop and buying a new game, or going to Smith's and buying a new toy, even if you're a man in your 20s. I mean, to be fair, my partner has plushies up to her arms and legs. So, and that doesn't bother me, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't bother anyone. And I think there's a genuine stigmatism of people that have these regressive behaviors that, in reality, aren't really are harmless. They're harmless. There's no need to be derogatory about it, and that's the thing. It's conceptualizing and comprehending why people regress in order to almost recharge themselves. To recharge themselves mentally and just to sit back and let themselves feel as they should from the eyes of a child. It's not. Obviously, there's lines to it. There are lines to those sort of regressive behaviors that have been harmful to people in the past, but I'm not, that's a conversation for a different time. I'm not on about that. I'm on about using, using nostalgia as a tool to recharge and escape, escape certain scenarios, and how it's something that I think should be utilized more. Now, I can't speak for everyone, as, I'm not trying to. But there was a TikTok I saw the other day, and it was about men gaming when they're over 25, and how you got bigger priorities to do. You've got to work, you got to provide for your family, you got to do this and that. It's such a old-fashioned way of exemplifying it. I don't see gaming as a consumption of media as any different from doom scrolling on your phone or binge watching a TV series. It still takes your mind away from the aspects of life. It still takes your mind away from that. I don't see an issue with it. I don't see there's any difference. There's a lot more there's a lot more inclusiveness in gaming because of how interactive it is. I would argue and say that gaming in itself is probably the best form of social media. And it was never intended to be a form of social media. But it is, in reality, when you think about it. When you think about gaming online with people, it's a form of social media. It's entering chat rooms and playing games with people from all different walks of life from all around the world. With that being said, though, brings me on to the negative effects of it, of social media being harmful. A harmful consumption of media, where you have TikToks that spread, lies, TikToks that incite fear, or people on Facebook slandered for posting pictures of themselves. Like, it's an extreme, when I say posting pictures of themselves, like posting pictures of their life and what they do, they've done something that they've considered to be quote unquote fun, and they've had a comment thrown at them that's been negative, is more what I mean by that. So, taking your partner out and going to a zoo and going to an animatronic dinosaur exhibit and you're in your 20s. That sort of thing, where what's the issue? obviously, subjectively, you know, people will automatically stigmatize it if someone's, say, going to Peppa Pig World. If a couple are going to Peppa Pig World, you can see that as a bit problematic, and that's where the line is drawn, I suppose. In that sense, that is the line that I found. Or there are certain things that regressive behaviors are a little bit much, but innocently, or playing in a kid's play park. No, you can do that just with no kids around, which most teenagers end up doing anyway when they're getting drunk under a slide or a climbing frame. But going back to my original point of social media throwing the idealized person at the world. The person with the best looks, with the best house, with the best car, with the best job, and people consuming that then strives to those wants, those needs. Like, you see everywhere at the moment all these people throwing these how to get rich guides, how to invest, how to match betting and things like that. We're living in a society at the moment where I believe personally that they're not helpful in any way, shape, or form. Other people would be like, oh yeah, I've made millions off of this, good for you, is what I'm trying to say. Good for you at the end of the day. Good for you for managing to do it. And with that being said, it's the case of, well, why has that become so apparent? You got Andrew Tate, which became a massive thing over the last couple of years, and I'm not going to try and go topicalize this too much and take away from the positives and negatives of social media. I'm just more providing examples of why that is more dangerous than anything else. But if that's how people thrive, then kudos to them. But I know there's a populace. I'm not going to say majority or minority here. There is a populace of people that don't respond well to that level of consumption when it comes to media. So I don't really spend much time on social media anyway. Like, TikTok I use purely because I'm interested to see what other people are doing with TikToks and how I can improve my own. It's the same thing with YouTube. I watch YouTube now with more of a analytical frame of mind to see what I could potentially do in the future. Because at the end of the day, I'm not monetized from this. I'm not making any money off of these, and with the podcast, when it starts generating income, it will probably be some of it, or if not all of it, will be donated towards improving the podcast and donating to charities. But I lost my train of thought, and that's going to happen quite a bit. This is why I give you sort of more of an unfiltered podcast is, it's a lot more personal. You could probably sit there and agree or disagree with some of the things that I've said, respond to it vocally, because people would do. I mean, yeah. Social media being bad, media just being bad. The whole point of, I think the whole point of what I was trying to summarize is, if you know how to use social media in a good way, it's healthy. It's healthy to do that. At the end of the day, we're not soul. What's the word? Soul animals. We 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 struggle to spend time on our own. I personally believe that people can enjoy their own company. Doesn't mean they always want to enjoy their own company. People, you can't deal with being alone. But then the whole idea of being alone is subjective, and it's kind of a sensitive topic among myself and my peers, because we have almost two definitions of it. One being, alone and loneliness is the same thing, or they're different things, or when I mean alone, it's we're not engineered biologically to be alone. We are very much like, any pack animal when it comes down to it. We have our own little pack, have our own little family. We branch off and form our own packs or our own prides or things like that. And I was watching Dynasties narrated by David Attenborough last night, and that's how I've managed to coin this. Last night being 2nd of May, I'm recording this, and it was going to be released in a couple of weeks from now. So by the time you're watching this, it will be the 16th, is more what I'm getting at. But when it comes down to being alone, it's being a nomad, being without family, without friends, without, anyone. People that say they're lonely want someone to be able to conceptualize and comprehend how they're feeling on a personal level, and want someone to share that with. Whether that be a significant other or a best friend or a friend or just someone. So, with that being said, loneliness in that sense is not having someone to turn to in a time of need that's going to... I don't want to say fulfill or appease, but be able to help you with, be able to support you with the needs that you need. And when you get to a point where, you're in a dysfunctional pride or dysfunctional pack, or to say it bluntly, a dysfunctional family or friendship group, it is easy enough to feel lonely. Say easy enough, it is unsurprisingly that you would end up feeling lonely from that. So, and as I say, this is the whole point of this podcast in that sense, is to provide the people that are alone or lonely with a space that they can connect with, whether that be through the gaming side of this channel or through the podcast side of the channel. And as I do more, because I do plan to do more once, things have fallen into place, become monetized and things like that, I want to go all out there. I want to collaborate with people, on things like this. All I'm saying at the moment is my perceptions and my opinions and my observations of what I've seen in life. They may not match up to what you guys see. Some of this would make sense, or some of it you'd be like, yes, but X, Y, and Z. this is what I'm trying to preach: a consumption of media that benefits a populace of people. Populace being inclusive to everyone. Not to go back on what I said in the first episode overly, because, but it's just allowing certain behaviors to happen without the judgment. I still to this day, I don't do it as much as other people. Like, I'm one of those that will sit and watch Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother on repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, just to have, it's predetermined how the series starts, how the series ends. That's how I, deal with it. That's how I consume to that degree. I don't necessarily regress, even though Big Bang Theory has been finished for what, 5-6 years now, I think. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say it's regressed, but I do remember watching it very much in my teen years. But then I've also been a fan of like Lilo and Stitch, where it's, I'll watch that with the other half, but I won't necessarily watch it on my own like I used to when I was a child. Oh, yeah, spot on. 5 years. In the midst of that, I was looking up to see when Big Bang Theory had actually finished. I was right, it is 5 years. So I was 21 at the time that finished. I remember Cars 3 coming out a couple of years before that. And I didn't go and see it in the cinema, but I definitely went and I definitely waited for it to come out and I watched it. Even, I was 8 at the time the first Cars film came out. Actually, tell a lie. I put on Cars every now and then. And when I say every now and then, I mean every now and then. Like, just for something on in the background so I can switch my mind off. Or I buy Lego or buy Pokemon. My regressive behaviors come in the form of different things. It's more consumerism, how I buy more material things in a regressive manner than consuming media in a regressive manner. That isn't to say I don't do it, because I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it now. But it's okay. It shouldn't be an issue. It should be not an issue at all. And certain adults do it a lot more commonly than people think, because people that, say for example, you grow up in a minimalistic household, you, correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be a time limit on how long you can have the things that you enjoyed most for. Certain toys and certain games suddenly just randomly disappear. And you go, oh, well, you don't use it anymore, so we got to get rid of it. And it's one of those, just because you're not using it now doesn't mean you're not going to use it in the future, especially when it comes to stuff from your childhood. Like, to open up a little bit, I've collected random bits and pieces that I had in my childhood. Like Go Go Crazy Bones. I got a bag full of them, and I spent a good couple of weeks sat there with other people. We were playing with them. We were in our 20s playing Go Go Crazy Bones, and I could tell the people that we lived with at the time were judging us for it because they were a little bit older and they emotionally matured in that sense. But if it's not harming anyone, then what's the issue? if you're allowing yourself to be a child just for a little bit, there shouldn't be an issue with it. And in this, I'm quite passionate about that. I'm such an advocate for that because, you know, if you're looking at if you're in your 30s and you see a Build-A-Bear you want, buy it. Buy it. Eventually it'll be, be one that you have. There are still people that need that emotional support from teddy bears. I don't see it as an issue. It doesn't inhibit how you proceed with your day-to-day life. It raises eyebrows, but who cares? Who cares? Really? I mean, the amount of classic games that I'm going through at the moment and buying. One of them, depending on when I've done this, I acquired Sonic Heroes, which I played as a kid, which I do plan to do videos on. But obviously, I tried to stem away from discussing my gaming side of the channel, but in this case, in this subject, it fits. But yeah, I bought that. I didn't see a problem with it. I'm looking forward to when I get around to playing it again, or it's even just to say that I have it still, rather than I had it, lost it, and then rebought it. To have it still is more comforting to me to say that than anything else. And in times of distress, you kind of need a vice like that. And I'll say it and I'll keep saying it throughout this episode. I don't see it as an issue. There's there's teddy bears and stuff that I still have from when I was younger, or that people have bought me. Am I going to get rid of them? No, because people took the time and effort to go and buy it for me. I'm not. I'm a very sentimental person when it comes down to it. Those bits of paper or bits of plastic or wasteful pieces of glass that aren't a necessity to the realm of adulthood, unnecessary to appease and spoil and look after an inner child that may not have had a lot of that when they were younger. Especially people that had to grow up quick in order to survive. And I guess this episode is more aimed at the stereotypers and the ones that stigmatize and are derogatory towards those who still play Pokemon, still, play video games, play Mario, play Cooking Mama, or even Bratz. I'm just picking out examples from the top of my head. If your girlfriend or boyfriend is sat there, happy as Larry, playing on a Nintendo DS or a Game Boy Advance that they still own, playing something that they would have sat there and played underneath their covers at night to make sure their parents didn't see him for hours on end, let them do it. They're happy at the end of the day. Even if it is through regressive behaviour, they're happy. Never will judge someone for that. Nah, it's just me. And for the people that do that, the only thing that I would say that I have learnt to do is to not let it manifest into something else. You know, can't always give your inner child attention, even if it craves it. Even if, it's screaming at you when you're in the middle of doing something important to just wave your arms silly and tell a funny joke. Something trivial as that. Obviously, and without making a pun out of it, time and a place and all that. I don't see the harm in it at all. And to the people that do regress when they need to cope with emotional trauma or, to suppress their intense emotions for a bit. So long as you come back, I don't see any harm in it. This is going to be a slightly shorter one today because, again, I still haven't booked anyone on at the time of recording this, and I'm definitely going to put out some feelers soon over the next couple of weeks of getting people to join me and discuss certain topics. But remember, towards improving mentally every day, it takes time. And with that being said, I'll see you next time.